Well, the day has come. It's finally here. The show nobody asked for, made by the creator nobody wanted, by a studio that destroys everything we love. If it's not already obvious what show this is, we're talking about the latest sludge cooked up by Lucasfilm to splatter onto Disney+. That's right, it's The Acolyte, created by Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, Leslie Headland. But you shouldn't let her checkered past give you pause, because, well, Disney certainly didn't. Sure, she may have been the personal assistant to a man whose entire negative reputation was basically an open secret in Hollywood for decades, yet she somehow had no idea what was going on, never having publicly condemned old Harvey, or for that matter, ever being asked about it by the media. Sure, all that may sound a little bit strange, but she did one time refer to him as her movie dad, so that's kinda nice, right?
A movie where people survive by acting like they don't see a thing. Sort of like working for Harvey Weinstein. You did it. I didn't. You did it. Shut the fuck up.
Luckily for Leslie, she was able to use her raw talent to score a little gig with Lucasfilm to head up her very own Star Wars series.
So when are you writing a Star Wars movie?
Oh, please, Queen Kathleen Kennedy.
Put a chick in it and make her name it gay!
But for the love of God, why? Why was she ever hired in the first place? You may ask. Well, when one's pitch for a show involves the words Frozen meets Kill Bill, how could Lucasfilm possibly have said no? Plus, one only needs listen to her talk about George Lucas, where it'll become abundantly clear she respects the man just about as much as Kathleen Kennedy does.
So I just recently got his 2-volume set of Star Wars concept art from Ralph McQuarrie, and I'm just like, this is insane. This guy created Star Wars. Really, there's so you see the evolution of the idea from what George is trying to express to him to what he puts down on the piece of paper to what it eventually becomes, why he makes particular decisions, why he decides to take things in one direction and not the other. This is what we understand to be Star Wars. The idea that that only came from George Lucas, that only George Lucas holds the key for what we understand to be Star Wars is just untrue. And I think the prequels are an excellent example of that. I mean, but you look at McQuarrie's work and you realize what an indelible mark this man has made on culture via this one role that he played in this film. And the idea that when you're hiring a director, that everyone is sitting in there waiting for George Lucas and not for the person who's going to know to hire Ralph McQuarrie, that's the problem. That's the misogyny and the problem with the auteur myth as it stands today, because they're not thinking this is the person that will hire the right people and this is the person that will be able to create the lookbooks and direct people to get them to that place. They're just thinking, do you have all the answers? And the truth is that nobody does, and anybody that says they do is lying.
Hey, Leslie, shut your fucking mouth!
With all this in mind, Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm would go on to make the exact type of quality decision that the fandom have come to expect of them, and Leslie's series was greenlit with an undeserved $180 million budget to take place during the underwhelming failure of the High Republic era. Previously created by the Lucasfilm Brain Trust, this endless font of storytelling has brought us such amazing characters as Rock, or Geode or something, who cares. Okay, so maybe from the get-go it sounds like a bad idea to set the show during an inferior, Disneyfied wannabe Knights of the Old Republic era that most people couldn't even begin to care about. And while that's true, it's important to keep in mind that this is Lucasfilm, a company that prides itself on delivering a certain level of quality, as seen in other such fine examples as The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka. There may have been some who held out a sliver of hope that common sense would prevail and this content would have been scrapped and never see the light of day. But to everyone's delight, eventually the first trailer dropped and the fan reaction was absolutely overwhelming, with the vast majority letting Disney know just how they felt about it. Then the following month it happened all over again with the second trailer. It was becoming clear Disney was sure to have another massive hit on their hands. Hopefully you're finding this video more enjoyable than the fans found those trailers, so if you could take a moment to like and maybe even subscribe, it would be appreciated and will really help me out with the old YouTube algorithm. Anyhow, it seemed for some reason, Disney feared there would be some negativity coming their way, so they opted to try this brand new tactic that they've only used unsuccessfully maybe a few dozen times before to poison the well, preemptively calling all criticism they might receive as coming from toxic males, who are nothing more than racist, sexist bigots.
I hear you're a racist now, father.
Yes, with a fresh strategy like this at their disposal, it was obvious they had a great deal of faith in the quality of their forthcoming excretion. Starting with Celebration in 2023, then in the months and weeks leading up to the release, Disney would also have the cast and crew appear in interviews to really get the audience hyped for the show, letting us know what was most important.
She's a powerful leader. Yes. In a very woman-centered world, which I was very excited to kind of be in that, because I feel like Star Wars is very like patriarchal, so it was kind of cool to have like this sort of woman-centered figure.
I mean, the best parts about Star Wars is there is no good or evil. It depends on what side you're standing on, truly.
Well, some nerds are very not gay and are very threatened by gay
Well, that's
stuff.
true. But
Yeah.
in my world, nerds are gay.
Okay. Was this the fun element of...
No, I don't think so. And yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I frankly...
You're offended?
Into it. No.
Damn it, Leslie, shut your fucking pie hole!
Then there was that time Charlie Bennett from the cast said this.
See the sides that are like, well, Anakin just killed a whole Death Star. How many people died on that? Is that not bad?
Oh, what? I'm sure he meant Luke. Given a chance to correct himself, I'm sure he wouldn't make the same mistake a second time.
Darth Vader is such a bad person. It's very clear, and it's very well established from those actions. But if you can't look and see that Anakin blowing up the Death Star possibly killed millions and millions of people, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this.
Fucking idiot.
All right, wait a minute. Let's be fair here. Maybe he's right. Let me double check my Blu-ray.
This is where the fun begins.
Use the Force. Let go.
The Force is strong in this one.
Yahoo! Look out!
What?
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.
We got him, R2.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
Remember, the Force will be with you always.
I stand corrected.
Okay. So even if the cast are a bunch of morons who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, at the very least, the writing team should be filled with people who know the brand extremely well.
God damn it.
And so it was. On June 4th, the sewage plant opened its valves, and the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte seeped onto Disney+. The episode begins with some text on screen explaining this show takes place 100 years before the rise of the Empire, which would place it about 87 years before The Phantom Menace. From here, we move on to a young cloaked woman who enters a cantina, and upon discovering her target, challenges this Jedi Master, played by Carrie-Anne Moss, famous for her role as Trinity in The Matrix, to fight her, in possibly the cringiest manner possible.
Attack me with all your strength.
See, there's your Kill Bill inspiration right there.
Kakatakina. Omoe kirine.
But now some bonus cringe. At least the show seems to have some level of awareness of this, as the other patrons react appropriately. This is short-lived, however, as she springs into crazy bitch mode and starts attacking innocent patrons in overpowered, plot armor-driven hand-to-hand combat. Finally, after letting this nonsense go on longer than it should have, Master Trinity steps in, also fighting hand-to-hand. You know, that combat type Jedi are so well known for. See, it's clever because she was in The Matrix, and Leslie thought it would be cool. Eventually, the fight makes its way to the second level of the cantina, with the masked woman attacking with her little knives. At one point, Trinity manages to unmask her, and she does appear to recognize her. But despite being a Jedi Master, this girl manages to knock Trinity back with the Force, then throws her daggers. Trinity finally draws her lightsaber, slashing the blades out of the air. The now unmasked woman tosses another dagger, this time at the cantina owner, which Master Trinity catches with the Force, saving the owner's life. But who could have guessed another dagger was thrown right at Trinity, killing her? Well, that's a wrap on Carrie-Anne Moss, dead before the show's opening title card. So for those keeping score, in Disney's Star Wars, lightsabers impaling you 'tis but a flesh wound. But a little dagger, oh, you know you better be careful. I mean, those things are sharp. Also odd, the masked girl tried multiple times during the fight to grab for Trinity's lightsaber, but after somehow managing to kill her, she just leaves it behind. Before leaving, she seems to consider killing the cantina owner, but upon seeing he's got a kid, she spares his life. Because I guess she's got a heart. Such character depth. Well done, Leslie. With that, we get the show's title card. In the next scene, we see a woman waking up in her quarters. She looks exactly like our attacker from last night, though less angry and crazy. We find out her name is Osha, and she is on board a Trade Federation ship assigned as a mechanic.
She's a mechanic.
Which is like a mechanic, just with a much more stupid name, courtesy of the Acolyte's writing team. Anyway, she and some colleague we'll never see again head outside the ship for some repairs when something goes awry and a full-on bonfire breaks out on the hull of the ship, big enough I'm pretty sure that Stannis was nearby looking into it for a vision of the future. Obviously, there's no issue with this. As we all know, fire does quite well in space. It's natural environment, because of all that oxygen just floating around in the vacuum. There can be no doubt, Leslie and her crack team definitely checked into this one for scientific accuracy before it ever made it to filming. During the raging bonfire, Osha takes a nice leisurely pause to stare into it, having herself a moment of trauma wherein we hear a little girl's voice. Luckily, Osha is eventually able to avert this workplace accident by putting out the fire with her droid. Oh yeah, I suppose I should mention, she has this little droid named Pip, that seems to be more of a tool, as while it does have a head that can swivel around, it doesn't seem to possess the ability to do much of anything else on its own. A cynical person might say this, like Baby Yoda or that stupid droid of Leia's, were designed by Disney purely as a means to sell a new line of toys.
Nope.
Well, alright then. Moving on. Just after the fire is put out, a ship arrives, and though Osha's colleague shouldn't be aware that she's the main character of the show, he comments,
Friends of yours?
as though it would be logical to assume that on a ship filled with many people, the arriving ship would be specifically for her. Of course, the arriving ship is for her, with 2 Jedi on board. One is a Jedi Knight named Yord, along with his Padawan, whose name doesn't really matter as she'll randomly disappear from the show after this scene anyway. Osha knows Yord and seems happy to see him, and apparently he recently became a Jedi Knight. They then proceed to exposition dump information they already know about each other. Osha was a Jedi until she dropped out. She became a Jedi when she was 8. Yes, that's right, 8. Despite the Jedi Council having serious reservations about Anakin being too old at 9 in The Phantom Menace, training he only received due to Obi-Wan having sworn it as Qui-Gon's dying wish, having been willing to defy the Jedi Council if need be. But apparently training an 8-year-old was A-okay. They lampshade the issue by saying it was a concern for the Jedi, but then they just did it anyway. Despite her having been in mourning, having lost her family, her mothers, her sister... Wait, did he just say mothers?
Your mothers?
What is this, an America Chavez situation now? Anyway, they all died in a fire. I wonder if it too was one of them space fires. They explain they're here because last night, Jedi Master Andara, Trinity, was murdered on Udea by someone matching Osha's description. They then compound this accusation by bringing in the cantina owner, who confirms that Osha is indeed the culprit. Let's take a moment to really think about this, something the show's writers opted not to do. The murder happened only the night before. 2 Jedi were dispatched to go to the scene of the murder to learn what happened. They questioned the cantina owner and, based on his testimony, concluded that Osha fit the description. But rather than then just showing him her picture or hologram, they decided instead to bring him with them all the way to the suspected murder's location to identify her in person. Which begs the question, who's looking after his kid? Or how about a question that actually matters? Do the writers not understand the concept of space? That aside from lacking oxygen, it's also really big, like unimaginably vast? Why am I asking? Of course they have no clue about anything. Going from planet to planet, even with hyperspace, travel isn't exactly like a trip to the grocery store. But these Jedi, who were likely dispatched from Coruscant, traveled to Ueda, took the time to question the witnesses, then hopped in their ship and zipped on over to wherever the hell the Trade Federation ship is, all in the matter of a few hours? No doubt some bright spark in the comments will try and argue we always see ships leaving one planet and arriving at another in the next scene. Hopefully, for most this doesn't need explaining, but when this happens, these scenes imply the passage of time. Be it hours, days, or weeks, time passes. Also, I didn't have a specific spot to organically fit this in, but I did want to mention. We get a couple of scenes on the bridge of the Trade Federation ship where we see they've gone and changed the voices and accents of the Nemoidians from what was established in the prequels.
Are you brain dead? I'm not going in there with 2 Jedi.
What is going on down there?
We lost the transmission, sir.
To this.
Activate the shield immediately.
The mechanics are on it, Captain.
And that's just lame. Anyway, the Jedi arrest Osha, who they believe somehow managed to murder a Jedi Master. So do they take her into custody, bringing her with them aboard their ship to return directly to Coruscant? Of course not. Instead, they dump her onto a fully automated droid-run prison transport, and just assume it's all gonna work out.
I'm going to leave them alone and not actually witness them. I'm just going to assume it all went to plan. What?
The next scene opens on some mystery planet. Oh, it's Coruscant! Thank God for that helpful title card. Inside the temple, we are introduced to another Jedi, Master Squid Game Guy, or Saul. He's training a group of younglings when a Jedi enters, using the Force to open the door. Maybe it's broken. She's played by Leslie Headland's wife, and she's not a very good actress. She greets Saul like she hasn't seen him in years, despite the fact that they both reside in the Jedi Temple and likely see each other regularly. The writer is trying to convey a sense of warmth and camaraderie between them, but lacks the talent to do so. So instead, we get this shoehorned-in approach. Regardless, she informs him that Osha, his former Padawan, has been arrested for the murder of Master Trinity. He finds this difficult to believe. Furthermore, it's stated that they need to keep it quiet that a former Jedi murdered one of their own, lest their political enemies use it against them. What political enemies? This is never elaborated on further. It seems like this was something that the writer thought sounded smart, so they just threw it in there. We return to the droid prison ship with Osha, where one prisoner is subdued by a facehugger-looking thing that's hugging his face. The other prisoners explain this is how violent criminals are kept under control. They ask if it's true if she killed a Jedi. Of course, this raises another question. Where the hell did they even hear a rumor like this? From the droid guard? Also, not to put too fine a point on it, but for a show that loves to champion its diverse and representative cast, it's interesting that the first speaking role for a white male in this entire show is that of some scummy prisoner. Anyway, these other prisoners explain they are planning an escape and ask if she wants in on it. She says no, it could get them all killed, and she has faith in the Jedi. No sooner does she finish speaking when they immediately implement their escape plan, which more or less works. They manage to override the droids with some cyborg guy, meaning whoever put them on this ship must be as dumb as an Acolyte rider to have not anticipated this exact scenario happening. The escape knocks the ship out of hyperspace and they collide with an asteroid as apparently they are suddenly in orbit of a planet, which is also ridiculous since hyperspace routes are plotted to avoid collision with or coming too close to big ol' things in space like, oh, I don't know, planets? The escapees manage to get out on an escape pod, leaving Osha behind. During all the chaos, her pip droid ends up on the floor. She reaches for it with the Force, but apparently she sucks at the Force now. Luckily for her, the ship jolts from plot contrivance and it's just given to her anyway. She grabs it and then proceeds to rip its head off to hack the door. She's about to get out on another escape pod when she remembers the subdued guy. He's too heavy for her to carry, so she uses Pip's disembodied head to zap the facehugger off of him. I actually laughed at what happened next. The dazed and confused criminal gets up screaming, knocks Osha back, runs directly into and launches the escape pod, leaving her behind, and apparently stranded, despite the ship appearing to still have other escape pods remaining. Maybe she doesn't know this, as she heads to the bridge, not even attempting to regain control of the ship, opting instead to just strap herself in for a crash landing, hoping for the best. We're then shown the ship crashing down on the surface of some icy planet. Back on Coruscant, Saul is summoned to the detainment level where all of the escapees from the prison ship have apparently been captured. Somehow, they were all brought back to Coruscant by who even knows. He is told the ship went down over Karlak, but nobody even bothered to check the surface. Saul mind tricks the prisoner that Osha helped, and he reveals he stole the last escape pod. Not sure how he would have any way of knowing it was the last one, but whatever. Saul requests to go after her. Green Woman says no, she can't afford to lose him. He says Osha is his responsibility, to which she agrees he should go and take a team of even more Jedi. Osha regains consciousness in the largely still intact bridge section of the crashed ship. She sees some little girl who runs away, with Osha taking off in pursuit. Eventually, we see the little girl looks like a young Osha. But there's a twist. It's not Osha, but rather her evil twin.
May?
She chases her through this vision, or whatever it is, and eventually Osha is also portrayed as a little girl. She tells May she thought she was dead, and asks if she killed Indara. May's eyes go black and she says yes.
I will kill them all.
Now Osha wakes up for real this time. Meanwhile, Saul and his Padawan Jackie are preparing to leave. As they board their ship, they encounter the third member of their party, Yord, the same Jedi who arrested Osha. But this time he's not wearing his robes because he's steaming them. For some reason he thought now seemed like an excellent time to give those robes a good steaming. Obviously, the scene was meant to appeal to the female audience because now it's only okay for women to objectify men. Personally, I don't even care if they do, but men being villainized for the very same thing needs to stop. Wasn't that long ago where this was never an issue? Before they leave, Jackie says,
Yord, put your clothes on.
Now, maybe it's just me, but it seemed a little presumptuous for a Padawan to be giving attitude and telling a Jedi Knight what to do. Anyway, they leave Coruscant and Saul reveals that Osha had a sister named May, who died. Jackie suggests the sister could still be alive and also the killer, but Saul is certain she is dead. They arrive at Karlak, taking a shuttle to the surface. Again, they arrive in record time as Osha is still on the bridge of the ship scavenging for supplies. She hears the shuttle in the distance and decides to run off for some reason. Maybe she's not sure if the incoming ship is the Jedi, but she flees into a cave. The Jedi find the crash site and take off after Osha, catching up to her almost immediately. She's backed herself into a corner, standing at the cliff edge opening out of a cave. The Jedi call out to her, and even though she sees Saul, her old master, she continues to back away right to the edge. Obviously, they wanted so badly to parody the scene from The Fugitive here, though it also wouldn't surprise me if they never saw The Fugitive and were parodying the parody from The Simpsons. Either way, both were much better written than this feeble attempt. Osha pleads with Saul, saying she didn't do it. He asks her to step away from the edge. Then she seems to step further back and falls. Saul catches her with the Force and yanks her back up. She tells him May is alive, but Saul's not one to have his mind so easily changed.
Do you think that...
No. May is dead. I saw her die.
I believe you.
After this, they leave. In the final scene, we see May on a beach where she approaches a dark figure in the distance. So this idiot edgelord gives a little speech, all of which is wrong, some even contradicted by the events of this very episode.
The Jedi live in a dream they believe everyone shares. If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel or laser are no threat to them. But an Acolyte kills without a weapon. An Acolyte kills the dream.
To close things out, the shadowy figure ignites their lightsaber for no reason whatsoever. Now, where have we seen that before? Also, maybe it's just me, but with that voice, I couldn't help but think of Ulysses from Fallout New Vegas.
You destroyed a nation taking its first breath. A place that could have been my home. Now, I'll destroy yours. What I do now is an act of conviction. If you believe in something enough, you must be willing to let it burn, lest it claim you. There's nothing more to be dug from these cracks in the earth, no more fury to be torn from its sky.
Mercifully, that brings this episode to a close.
That is why you fail.
Unfortunately, there is another. This episode begins on a planet called Olega, at the ridiculously titled Local Jedi Temple. Some little girl is paid by May to cause a completely unnecessary distraction to a door droid. As when you watch what May ultimately does, she could have just walked up to the door and done it without the need for the distraction. Less than a minute into the episode and the show is already tripping over itself. May strolls right into the temple, mask on, and walks right past some woman who takes no notice of this masked unknown figure. Quite the security operation they have there at Local Jedi Temple. Eventually, she finds her target, Master Torben, who is meditating while levitating. He looks utterly ridiculous. The hair, the beard, none of it works. Probably because the actor playing him is much younger than they're trying to portray him as being. Incidentally, this is the same actor who played Tommen on Game of Thrones. Anyway, May gets into her little stance and again says,
"Attack me with all your strength."
But Torben just ignores her, seemingly oblivious to her presence. Not sure if that's better or worse than getting laughed at, but it is funny. She attempts to attack him, but he's created some kind of force barrier around himself, so she just fails over and over at accomplishing anything whatsoever. Not sure if the writers intended this scene to be funny, but it is. Sadly, her display of continued incompetence is soon interrupted as she hears someone coming, so she escapes through an open skylight window. We check back in with Saul and the others, where Yord points out they can't be sure Osha's telling the truth about her sister, but just then they get a call from Green Woman who advises someone matching Osha's description broke into Local Jedi Temple on Olega. And since Osha's with Saul, it couldn't have been her, so off they go to Olega to investigate. Back on the planet, the next day, May goes into some shop and meets with this ally of hers, Chimere. It's implied he may have killed the owner of the shop. He asks if she's killed Torben. She says she couldn't and asks him to make a poison for her.
Fanta?
One that's native to her home planet. He reminds her that this won't make the Master happy, as for some dumbass reason she has to defeat one of her targets without a weapon. He points out that killing a Wookiee will be hard, but she reasons after killing Torben she'll only have 2 targets left, and will kill one without a weapon. But that would imply this Wookiee is one of the remaining 2, so likely she'd be leaving herself with only one viable opportunity to complete this stupid kill condition. There's also this moment where they slip in the line,
In the name of peace. And peace
Is a lie, I know.
and no, just don't. You're not even in the same league as KOTOR.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.
The Jedi arrive on Olega and go to the temple, where they are greeted by the same Jedi who scared off May the night before. At the same time, in Torben's room, May drops in from the still open skylight on the roof. Not sure why they even had that door droid, as people can just come and go as they please. At this point, the Acolyte introduces audiences to the fresh new concept of the Chungus Jedi. Just like normal Jedi, but much bigger. Like so many things in this show, this is absolutely retarded. Jedi, by the very nature of what they are, their training, their lifestyle, all preclude this idiotic notion that they would ever be fat or in any way out of shape. Anyway, Jedi the Hutt brings out the little girl that May paid the night before to distract the droid. They question her and she identifies she was hired by Osha, but with a mask. May is meanwhile talking at Torben, asking if he remembers her. She takes the poison vial and sets it on the floor, offering Torben can confess his crimes to the Jedi Council, or receive forgiveness from her. This tantalizing once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get May's forgiveness causes Torben to awaken, breaking his what we are told to be 10-year vow of silence. He tells May he's been waiting for her, and then, just like Tommen went for that King's Landing, Torben picks up the poison and drinks it. All the while, Saul, Osha, and the rest are headed in Torben's direction. Osha sees Child May and wanders off in another direction to follow. Saul, meanwhile, feels Torben dying through the Force and quickens his pace. But somehow, that makes absolutely no sense, Osha, who went down some side corridor, enters from the rear into the room with Torben's dead body before anyone else has arrived. She crouches down next to the body, finding the empty poison vial on the floor. She picks it up just as Saul and the other Jedi enter the room. Naturally, this makes everyone suspect Osha of having committed the murder, re-establishing her as a suspect. But before any of this can play out, Yord walks in through the same entrance Osha used and declares her innocence. Yord, you see, had followed Osha when she broke off from the rest of the group, so he knows she didn't kill Torben. But it seems he also waited outside the door for a good dramatic moment to enter and save the day. What the hell was the point of all this? Why even do this? Why set up a scenario wherein your protagonist is suspected of a crime they didn't commit, only to immediately reverse it and be like, nah, it's cool? Did the writers think they were subverting something here? It's just so completely pointless. It's almost like the anti-Chekhov's gun, wherein if you introduce something to the plot, no matter how trivial, it should have a payoff later in the story, and if it doesn't, it shouldn't be included at all. The whole part of this story immediately made itself irrelevant only seconds after being introduced. Maybe it needs its own name. Headland's Catastrophe? Mind you, that may as well be the name of the whole show. Moving on, Torben is dead, and apparently from the smell of the vial alone, Osha knows it's a poison from her home planet. This leads them to the local and only apothecary in town, watching from a balcony across the street. Jedi the Hutt sees the same guy May interacted with before, entering the shop, and he says he is not the known shop owner. Yord suggests he walk in and confront the imposter, and he brandishes some sort of clunky-looking stun blaster. However, Jackie mockingly dismisses Yord's idea and says they should send Osha in instead, wearing a wire, hoping he will believe her to be May, and that they'll get some sort of confession out of him. Saul agrees with this and takes the blaster from Yord to give to Osha. Yord protests, saying it's against protocol to give a civilian a weapon, yet Saul reminds him she knows how to use it. Nicely done, writers. Yord's protest had nothing to do with whether or not she knew how to use the blaster, but rather that she shouldn't be given one in the first place. But let's go a layer deeper on this one. Since the fuck when have civilians not been allowed to carry a weapon in the Star Wars universe? Osha throws a cloak over herself and heads into the shop to confront the imposter. She does a blunderous job of trying to get any information, just says hello and awkwardly stands there. It seems that maybe Chimera can tell something is off, as he says she's acting weird, but then he just goes ahead and brings up the poison, and asks if she used it or killed Torben without it, since that would make the Master so happy. Then as he gets closer, he tells Osha that she looks exactly like her, so now he has caught on to the deception, but does he even know that May has a sister? We'll find out soon that May believes Osha to be dead, so it would seem unlikely he believes there's an identical person to May out there, unless maybe he thinks she's a changeling. Osha pulls the stun blaster on him, and the rest of the Jedi who are listening in arrive. They tell Chimera that they know he supplied the poison, but if he cooperates, they may let him go with a warning. A warning? He's now directly connected to the killing of a Jedi, a known associate of the killer, not to mention whatever he may have done to the store's original shopkeeper, but sure, let's just give him a warning. So he spills the beans, saying he's just May's supplier. With Yord standing behind Chimera, Saul asks who is he, in reference to the Master. But Chimera looks back and sees Yord and says,
I thought he was with you.
Chimera claims he doesn't know much about May, only that she wants revenge on 4 Jedi and that he's expecting her to return tonight to pick up supplies. Back at local Jedi Temple, Saul and Osha discuss May. Osha wants to confront her, but Saul says he'll be the one to do it. Osha points out that May's 4 targets would be the same 4 Jedi who were posted on her home planet 16 years earlier: Indara, Torben, Kilnaka the Wookiee, and Saul. Saul tells her to have faith in him. As May approaches, Saul confronts her in the street. May forgets to say her dumbass line and jumps straight into the fight. So we get more Jedi Fu fighting. Saul easily makes a mockery of her, outclassing her with ease. At one point, as she did with Trinity, she goes for his lightsaber and fails this time as well. Osha is shown to be listening in on the Jedi's comm frequency, so is hearing what's being said. Saul manages to hold May in place with the Force and looks into her mind, seeing even May doesn't know her master's identity. Somehow, May gets free, but Saul presses that he saw she still thinks of her sister, and this is where May says her sister is dead. Saul reveals Osha is alive. Yord joins them and they tell May that she's under arrest. Her response to this is to create a big dust cloud with the Force. Sadly, this stupid plan works, making the Jedi look incredibly incompetent, and she gets away. Osha, hearing this, decides to try and go after May herself, and immediately runs into her, seeing May out on the street stealing some guy's speeder. May also sees Osha, and they have a moment staring across at each other. Osha fires the stun blaster at May and completely misses. May speeds off and gets away, again. Saul later speaks with Green Woman, saying they should find Kilnaka since he's the next target. but Green Woman orders them back to Coruscant because it's too dangerous since they know May is a trained outsider. Seems like this is about as much information as they had when coming to Olega to protect Torben, but whatever. Sure, let's waste time going back to Coruscant. Back on Olega, Jedi the Hutt is keeping watch on Chimere when he's suddenly distracted by a girl. May, for some reason, thought it'd be a bright idea to come back to town, meeting with Chimere, who reveals he knows where Kilnaka is. They take off, leaving Jedi the Hutt frustrated over Chimere's sudden disappearance. The final scene of the episode teases the Wookiee Jedi, as we see him disarming some scavengers or whoever they are of their weapons, after which he wanders into a hut. And that brings this two-part trash fire to a close. And as you can see, we're already off to a terrible start. This show is an absolute mess of terrible writing. The real question is there anything positive that can be said about it? Well, I do like the actor playing Saul. He seems to be carrying this show, which is made even sadder still when considering he doesn't even speak English. Apparently he's just phonetically reading his lines, yet still manages to have the best performance of all the cast. Also, Yoda. I do like Yoda. What does Yoda have to do with this show, you ask? Seemingly nothing. Despite being alive and around during this timeline, the show has thus far opted not to include him. Let's keep it that way. These idiots would only find a way to damage his character. Sadly, the Star Wars franchise has already been annihilated by Disney, so the least we can do is mock them relentlessly and embarrass them as they deserve. And no, that doesn't make us toxic fans. Rather, we're the ones that actually care. The ones that hold Star Wars to a higher standard, that will not clap for the bile that Disney dares to label as being Star Wars, while pissing all over George Lucas's legacy. And hey, so far we're only 2 episodes into this garbage. After this, we have episode 3. And trust me, there's a lot to be said about that one.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
But it and future episodes will need to be left for another video. As for this video, it's gone on long enough. And hopefully you've enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you could help out the channel by liking and subscribing and all that other good algorithm stuff, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.